Uncle Dan lived in the woods. That's what I assumed when I was a kid. Now that I'm an adult, I know that Uncle Dan lives in a small house in Massachusetts. He just really likes the woods. And I think part of the reason that I thought he lived there is because his attitude towards life is so different from my parents. My parents are very indoor people. They live in a house in suburban Delaware, and I think the most exciting thing to happen to them in the past 20 years was when a strip mall opened up down the street that had an Olive Garden and a Red Lobster. Whoa, the unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks over there, and you got the shrimp and the cheesy biscuits there, what do you do? And that's the highlight of their lives. But Uncle Dan's a little bit different. He grows his own organic vegetables in a plot in his front yard. They're very, very different people. My parents like to go to see a movie at Regal Cinemas down the street. Uncle Dan once came with us to see The Incredibles. He said it was the worst experience of his entire life. What he likes to do is go to, and I know this is a euphemism for something, but I've never figured out what, adult dance camps. If there ever was a euphemism, that's it, right? But what is, I'm guessing it's a bunch of like aging hippies getting drunk and high in the moonlight in the desert, but I really don't know. So Uncle Dan would come to visit us for Thanksgiving every year, and you can see the differences there too. My mother had her classic thing where she would open that can of cranberry sauce, where you use the can opener on both ends, then you push out that little cylinder, and you slice it into the circles. But Uncle Dan would come with like his own container of kohlrabi and kale and sog from his garden, and he'd pass it around the table. And you know, if you've tasted those things, they taste just like any other green vegetable, but my parents would think it's so exotic. They'd look at each other like, of course, Uncle Dan brought something called sog. It looks like sog, and it tastes like sog, ha ha ha, you know, that kind of thing. And he would always bring it in this plastic container. There was like a carry-out container he'd been using for the past 15 years. That's Uncle Dan. You know, we'd offer him a place to stay in one of the bedrooms. Maybe he could sleep on the extra bed or even a couch. He would always say, no, I want to sleep on the basement floor. That's Uncle Dan. And what created the most tension with Uncle Dan around Thanksgiving was always that he wanted to go to the woods. And I guess the idea of flying to come see us and then spending the rest of the night in a house in suburban Delaware was too much for him. He had to have his woods time. And so as soon as he'd arrive, my dad would drive him in from the airport, he'd put his backpack down, and he'd say, I'm going to the woods, who wants to go? And you could just feel that my mother hated this. That she would, and sometimes she would say, do you have to go right now? We're gonna eat in like an hour. And he'd say, I don't have to go. Which is his way of saying, I don't have to go, but I would like to go, and therefore I'm going to go. And who wants to come with me? And so my sister and I would go with him all the time. It was a lot of fun. In fact, I think the walks through the woods are part of the reason that I became a biologist, because it was really interesting. That's a woodpecker, that's a deer track. You don't see those in the house. But for my mother, it was just another thing on the big stressful Thanksgiving day. You've got to deal with all this stuff, and now Uncle Dan's going to come back from the woods. He's going to be late for Thanksgiving dinner with the kids with him. He's going to track mud in the house. He's going to borrow my dad's car to get to the woods. He's going to track mud in the car. Yes, my parents' cars are the kind of cars where you can tell if someone's tracked mud in them. That's how clean my parents' cars are. So one year, this is I think 2003, Uncle Dan and I are about to go to the woods. And my cousin Barbara, my dad's cousin Barbara, and her daughter Sarah have just arrived. And Sarah is about 6 years old. Barbara adopted her from China when she was a baby. And so we say, as we're leaving, hey, Barbara and Sarah, do you guys want to come with us to the woods? And Barbara says, oh, no thanks. But Sarah, who's 6, you know, is given the choice of, well, go to the woods or sit in this house with these adults and have adult conversations. Like, woods, 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 woods. So we say to Barbara, can Sarah come with us to the woods? Barbara says, sure. We go to the woods. My mother says, you must be back by 5. We're having dinner at 5. Is that late, by the way? Because every time I tell someone about this, people are like, you have Thanksgiving dinner at 5? I'm like, yeah, I know it's kind of early. Like, not early, that's late. Thanksgiving dinner is at 1 or 2. That's not dinner, that's lunch. So, get over yourselves, everybody. Dinner is evening, that's why it's dinner. So we have to be back at 5. And so I should tell you about the way Uncle Dan goes to the woods. He's been all over the world. He was once almost completely lost and eaten by something in a jungle in Ecuador. He has actually stared down a moose, not in Ecuador. Weird tropical moose in Ecuador, I don't know. And so for Uncle Dan, the woods that he goes to when he visits us is Brandywine Creek State Park, which is this a square mile and a half patch of wilderness in Delaware. It's nothing to him. So what he does is he just doesn't go on any path. He just goes into the woods, wherever he happens to enter the woods, and sees what happens, and just kind of says, well, the sun's over there, and that's how we'll find our way out. And this year, when we had little Sarah with us, that really did not work. It's 4:30, and we are completely lost. And then it's 5 o'clock. And we're supposed to be back at 5, but it's 5, and we don't know where the heck we are. And part of the problem is that we're trying to navigate the woods with a 6-year-old. And so all the time we're trying to entertain the 6-year-old, we're trying to not let the 6-year-old know that we are L-O-S-T, and so we're spelling things to each other. Are we S-C-R-E-W-E-D? Yes. And we can only move at the pace of a 6-year-old. We're trying to find a way out, but we can only go this fast, because that's how fast Sarah can walk. And so at 5 o'clock, I take my cell phone out. This is 2003, so this is like the first time I've ever had a cell phone with me in the woods. It was like, ooh, this is a new cell phone, it's got color. Remember those? It's a flip phone, too. Whoa! And I think the only reason we were allowed to take Sarah to the woods with us is because we had this cell phone. And Uncle Dan didn't have a cell phone. I still don't think he has a cell phone. I called my parents, and I said the thing that you say when you're completely lost. I said, we are on our way back. You ever do that when you know that it's a complete lie, but you figure, I'm probably going to find out where I am in like the next 5 minutes, and then no one has to know. Well, we didn't find out where we were, and it's 5:30. And this is late November, so the sun is gone from the sky. It is getting darker and darker. We can't see down the paths of the woods. And so we're doing this thing where, like, Uncle Dan will stay with Sarah, and I'll sprint down a path to look at it, and then come back and say, it looked like this. Should we go this way? And we don't know. I call my dad, and I say, look, we're lost. I can hear Cousin Barbara crying in the background. She thinks that her daughter has just been abandoned in the woods with an uncle and a cousin. And my dad says, all right, I guess you better turn on your GPS. And my phone, if you remember phones from 2003, my phone said on the back of it, GPS. It had the letters printed there. I still never figured out why it had that. Because I don't think it had GPS, certainly not in the sense of today's phones with GPS. My Droid now has GPS. I can look up where I am using satellites. But in 2003, I think it just said GPS because, like, if you called 911, they could somehow locate you using your phone. And when we were leaving to go to the woods, I told my dad, jokingly, don't worry, we'll be fine. I've got GPS. And I think he was just waiting for okay, guess you better turn on your GPS. So I had to tell him, Dad, I don't think that's real. So he's hysterical, my mom's hysterical, they are a step away from calling the police, and I'm telling them, no, we're gonna find our way out. It is 5:30, it is 6, it is 6:15, it is now so dark that we don't even notice when we walk out of the woods. We're now out of the woods, we're in the parking lot, and thank goodness nobody saw us leaving the woods, because, there's nothing creepy about that. About 2 adult men coming out of the forest in the dark with a 6-year-old Chinese girl. No, we're her uncle and her cousin. We look alike, so we get back to the car, we go back, we're an hour and a half late for Thanksgiving dinner, it's a disaster, everybody is furious, Barbara and Sarah never come back to Thanksgiving after that year. The next year, Uncle Dan comes and the tension is as high as it's ever been when he says, who wants to go to the woods? And I can feel this massive room-occupying force, and maybe some of you are familiar with this force. It is the guilt that is emanated from a Jewish mother. It says, you can go to the woods, but I wish you wouldn't. And I knew that's what she meant because she said to me, you can go to the woods, but I wish you wouldn't. And a part of me says, I'm in my 20s. I can go where I want when I want, but another part has that guilt, and so I said to Uncle Dan for the first time, I'm sorry, I can't go this year. And the next year, I thought it was going to abate somewhat, but no, my mother, I'd really feel more comfortable if you didn't. And I didn't go. And again and again. And I never went back to the woods with Uncle Dan. And this year, 2011, if you guys were in this area at all for Thanksgiving, you know that the weather was beautiful. It was like in the mid-60s. So the day after Thanksgiving, Uncle Dan has left us. He's visiting a friend in Pennsylvania for a while. I'm trying to suggest something for my parents to do, not just going to go see a movie because the weather's beautiful, and now I have a baby, so we can't actually go see a movie, ever. I don't think. Someone who has babies, please tell me when I can see a movie again, because I think it's going to be a long time. And so I suggest to my parents, hey, how about we go for a walk in Brandywine Creek State Park? I think maybe it'll be good to show them that it's not that scary and it's not that bad. And so we go, my parents and my wife and me and the baby. We go for a walk. It's nice. It's nearing the end of the day, and as we're out in the woods and thinking about coming back, my mother says that she really has to go to the bathroom, and so she's going to sort of move back ahead of us because we were moving kind of slow with the baby. She's going to go really fast back to the visitor center and use the bathroom. And so, of course, 20 minutes later, I get a phone call from my mother saying that she is lost in Brandywine Creek State Park. She's somehow back at the creek where we were an hour ago, and help. So it's again a race against the clock, against sunset, with my dad and me and my wife and the baby running through the woods, yelling my mother's name, trying to find her before it becomes completely dark. We find her, it's fine. My sister gets a lovely text message from my wife that she thinks is hilarious and posts on Facebook, which says, FYI, your dad's cell phone has no battery and your mom is lost in the woods. Which is a great text message to get. We eventually get out of the woods, and for like the past couple months, it's been the recurring joke. Every time I see my parents, it's, oh, hey, and my dad will say to my mom, oh, hey, go upstairs, we'll meet you there, but don't get lost on the way. Because for people who go to Olive Garden and Red Lobster, that's the big excitement, getting lost for 45 minutes in Brandywine Creek State Park. I don't know what's going to happen this Thanksgiving. Either my mother learned that Brandywine Creek State Park, even when you're lost, is not so bad. And that getting lost in the woods is a great way to break up the time and a great way to see nature and have a little bit of a small adventure. Or it taught my mother that Brandywine Creek State Park is a horrible vortex into which you can be sucked and have no way out. I don't know. We will find out how she feels this year when Uncle Dan comes to Thanksgiving and says, who wants to go to the woods? Thank you very much.